What's good, people? Agent Juice reporting for duty. Genndy, or Genndy, Tartakovsky, I don't know how to pronounce the first name, so I'm just going to refer to him as Tartakovsky, is a prolific cartoon creator. He is known for creating Dexter's Lab, Samurai Jack, and he actually has a new show coming up called Unicorn Warriors Eternal. That's going to be premiering at some point. So I saw that news, and I'm just like, ooh, very interesting. I want to see that. But I have not seen his latest project that he's been making called Primal. And so I wanted to give that a watch, and I wanted to share my thoughts on it because it's a cartoon like nothing I have seen in quite a while, if ever. So, without further ado, let us go ahead and buckle into the wild. Get your spear, sharpen it, be prepared to be jumped by all kinds of horrible monsters as we survive this brutal world. But remember that the best way to survive is to smash that like button, of course, and to share the video. If you happen to be on Minds, hit that remind button, and let's go ahead and dive into this. So, as we usually do on this show, let us first talk about the speed paint. Normally, when I do a speed paint, I like to do something cheeky, where I make a comparison to another movie or cartoon, and I do a little crossover thing, or I make a little joke. This time around, I'm kind of playing it straight here. It is the two main characters of Primal, Spear and Fang, facing off against four of the most prolific antagonists that they face down in season 1 of Primal. And I kind of wanted to give it that dark and edgy air that the show has. So yeah, I kind of wanted to play this one straight this time around. So that's the speed paint. Primal. Primal is a very simple story. It's about a caveman who is known as Spear in the credits. You never hear his name because there is no speaking at all in this entire show. Spear tragically loses his family in an attack by these theropods. And in his rage, he hunts them down, only to find another theropod who is named Fang, who has children of her own. These children are attacked by the same other theropods that killed Spear's family. And so, together, losing their family, their children, Spear and Fang decide that if they are going to survive this brutal wild, it's probably best if they do so together. And thus begins the adventures of Spear and Fang as they try to survive this brutal world. So yes, like I mentioned, this is a very unique cartoon. There is no dialogue. It is all visual. Obviously, there's audio, but there is no speaking. It's really fascinating because I remember in college I had a film professor who would say that the greatest films are films that can be silent films, not that are silent films. He said that you should be able, if you could mute a movie and get most of what is going on, it is a good film because it's using film's greatest strength, which is the visual, to tell its story. And that is precisely what Primal does. Primal also does something interesting in that its pacing is very fascinating. It's a show that can really take its time. There are stretches of scene where a character will just kind of be in the wilderness and you get a chance to kind of absorb the atmosphere. But it's also hyper brutal. The show has all kinds of death and destruction in it that is very interestingly appropriate for the show. When a show tries to get all, bloody and gory, sometimes it can do so just for the sake of being edgy and shocking. And believe me, Primal is quite shocking. But I believe that it's a show that has to be brutal because it's about brutality. It is about the unforgiving nature of living in a dangerous, wild land. And I think that it's able to get away with being so absolutely just relentlessly brutal because it is not a show that is trying to shock you. It's very clearly a show that is trying to make you think and feel. And again, I think it achieves that by not having dialogue. By removing dialogue, it's a show that forces you to pay attention to it a lot more. You ever have those shows that you just kind of turn on in the background and you just kind of listen to characters do their jokes and their quips and whatnot, and you kind of laugh as you're making a sandwich or doing something else? You can't do that with Primal. You have to be engaged with it at all times. I think that's a really smart move on Tartakovsky's part to make a show that you kind of are forced to pay attention to, so you see every single insane, brutal detail. The one thing about Primal that I feel is kind of a shame has nothing to do with Primal itself, but rather the fact that a show like Primal can only exist in a certain way. Tartakovsky, like I mentioned, is very prolific. He's made very successful shows, Dexter's Lab, Samurai Jack. So he's got pedigree. I think it is because he is so good that he was able to say, hey, I want to make a show like this, and the higher-ups, Adult Swim said, yeah, okay, we'll let you do it. If Primal were pitched by a nobody, like me, I have no pedigree under my belt, or some other new guy, or new girl, or whatever, it would not be made. They'd laugh you out of the room. And that's kind of a shame, because it really puts a hamper on some of the more creative things we could have seen. And I want to see more stuff like Primal. Now, Primal is not a show that's going to make a lot of, it's not what you would consider a moneymaker show. You're not going to sell spear and fang toys like you would sell SpongeBob toys, for example. Obviously, it's not quotable because they don't speak, and so it's not really a super marketable show, and it's more of an art piece. So it's kind of a cartoon made for art's sake, which is why, like I said, a nobody would never be able to get away with making Primal, and you have to have someone like Tartakovsky who has pedigree and clout who can actually make it. Unless, of course, you go independent, and then you can make whatever you want. The problem is with independent, there's not money. It's harder to make stuff because you have to convince people to work with you, and you have to raise money, and it's more difficult. And so, there's always that kind of dichotomy. Like in a perfect La La Land, sunshines and rainbows world, anybody could make anything, and it would just rain money, and you could have whatever you want. But unfortunately, that's not how it works. So in order to see shows like Primal even exist, they have to be either a 1 in a million independent success, or they have to be someone who is already well established and finally decides to use their clout to say, hey, I want to make a funny passion project that's not going to make as much money as an average show or an average movie, and I want to do it. And so we got Primal out of it, and I'm glad that it got made. And I'm wondering how long Tartakovsky sat on that idea before he felt like he had enough pull in the industry to make it work. But either way, it looks like Primal's doing good. Last I heard, they're slated for a second season, so that's nice. I think it won a couple of awards, mostly for being, artistic and silent, not for, how much money it's making. I honestly don't know if Primal's making any money at all. It might be one of those things where, they're making their money elsewhere, so they're willing to sacrifice money to make Primal. Anyway, to wrap it all up, Primal is both a trailblazer of a cartoon and kind of a reminder. Trailblazer in that it's not something you really see. A silent cartoon, a dialogue-less cartoon, is not really something you see a lot, but it's a reminder that animation absolutely can be artistic, even in a TV show format. And it just goes to show you that animation is a medium, not a genre. Anyway, I'll go ahead and wrap it up there for today. All right, you people know what to do. If you like what you see and you want to see more, go ahead and tickle the sacred buttons. Go ahead and, like the video, subscribe to the channel, whatever platform you may be on. Go ahead and push them buttons. And of course, I love to hear from you, what you have to say, so comment down below and share this video. Again, whatever platform you may be on. If you're watching this on Minds, it's as easy as hitting that remind button. If you're on YouTube, share the link, just let people know. And of course, if you wish to stalk me elsewhere on the internet, here are my links here on the screen that you can use. And of course, as I always say, pay special attention to Minds.com. It's the great alternative, one of the great alternatives that are emerging to, stop this tech hegemony that is slowly crushing us. Unless you're watching this on Minds already, in which case, good on ya. Anyway, with all that said, I thank you for spending this time with me. I hope you all stick around. And until next time, deuces.